Well, we're back behind the lines here at Harris Hoosier, and a special guest joining me this afternoon is Jamie Macomber. Jamie, good to have you on board. This has been a long time coming.
Yes, thank you so much. I love to be here.
I know you have a very, very busy schedule with a big public stable in the back, and you've got horses in going tonight, but I'm assuming you've got good help back there that take care of things when you have a chance to step away.
Absolutely. You know, we couldn't do it without good help. It's one of the hardest parts of the business, but it's also when you do get good help, you do whatever you can to keep them.
Sure.
And thankfully, our turnover's been pretty low the last few years since we've been on our own, and I appreciate those guys so much.
Okay, very good. So this is, again, Behind the Lines, where we bring some local celebrities like Jamie on board here and giving the racing fans an opportunity to ask questions for our guests here. And we've got some good questions. We've got some folks that have checked in here with some good things to talk about, and we'll go down through the list here in just a few minutes. Now, you are a regular here at Hoosier Park. In fact, you've been the top training as far as the top trainers, one of the top trainers here the last number of years. In fact, you tied for number one a couple of years ago with Jeff Cullifer.
Yeah, he's tough to beat. I still keep trying, but you know it's hard.
So for many years, you were the local trainer for the Ron Burke barn. How did that come about?
Out of college, I went and got a job in the office, and 6 years later, I decided I didn't really love it.
Okay.
And he said, "Take 5 horses," and I'm like, "No, I haven't sat behind a horse in 6 years." And he goes, "You can do it. I've seen you drive." And I still ignored him for a little while. And so I finally took him up on his offer to take 5.
Okay.
5 turned into 8.
Here or at another track?
It started in the fall, so I went to Pompano first.
Okay.
And I took 5 to Pompano. And, you know, he's amazing. I know everybody wants to know what advice he ever gave me. He can train a stable over the phone. Like, he is amazing in that fact that I can call him and tell him what a horse is doing, and he'll have a solution, and it may or may not work, but then we can, you know, just talk about it.
Sure.
So he's a great communicator. He knows his horses inside and out. He knows what to do, and I learned a lot over the phone over the years through him. But back to this question, 5 turned into 8, 8 turned into 10, 10 turned into 12, and before you know it, we had 30 or 35 horses.
So then what brought you to Hoosier Park for the first time?
Well, I was just dating Ricky at that time. So Ricky was going to Florida in the winter and here in the summer. So
makes sense.
Yeah, so I think Ronnie knew what he wanted, but it was to get me. He thought he was doing me a favor to get me out of the office, and it turned out that he wanted a stable in Indiana.
Right. Okay. Well, obviously Ronnie knew what he had, saw the potential in you, and I know you've not disappointed him. You've been very successful. That team has been very successful. But you opted to branch out on your own here a couple of years ago, and I'm going to ask you what brought that about.
You know, that's so I sometimes ask myself, because when I was in that position, I'm like, I don't want to go on my own. I don't want to race against the Ronnie Burke stable. But the offer came. Wilbur was looking at retiring, and he kind of wanted
to.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was looking to stay hands-on with the babies, but get his racehorses somewhere else. And he asked if I'd be interested. And I thought that maybe that was a sign, since I had been contemplating on whether or not to go on my own or to stay with Ronnie. So
a clientele with a good horse base to build around is obviously a good place to start.
It's a great start.
Yeah.
So blessed to with Wilbur and Z-Tam stable.
Okay, very good. So let's go down the list here. We have the top 10 questions for Jamie Macomber here. Matt Tucker asks, and I had the same question, and you've been very successful. You've won a lot of races, obviously, including the Breeders' Crown, but what's that one race that you haven't won yet that is still on your list?
Oh, this is a tough question, only because, like, as a kid growing up in the horse business with my mother and father, my dad loves trotters.
Right.
So I grew up aiming towards the Hambletonian. Like, someday we're going to have a horse in the Hambo. But now that I train horses, I kind of like speed, so I tend to go to the Pacers.
You're saying the trotters aren't fast? Not as fast.
They're not as fast, and they're difficult.
Yes, they are.
So the Pacers can be tricky too, but the trotters, it's a tough competition. You have to have a really good trotter to get to the big leagues.
Doesn't have to be the best trotter, but is one that stays on task
Yeah.
and loves to race.
So and it's hard to get an out-of-state bred, and you don't see many Indiana bred trotters out there, except Hannelore,
Right.
and Charita. But so I guess I'm aiming towards more, and it's not even the Little Brown Jug, and I grew up in Ohio, so I don't train for a half-mile track. So I guess it would have to be something like the Dan Patch.
Okay, very good. gotta like that. So having said that, training for a different size track, you do race some during the winter time. I'm going to assume you do race some over at Miami Valley and Dayton.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Any half-mile tracks that you maybe Northfield or even Yonkers that you send horses to?
Yeah, we sent Beckham.
Okay. To Yonkers.
I took him to Canada last year and had some luck on a half. So
You did. That's right.
Yeah, that was fun. And then he tried Yonkers this year and came back here for the bigger track. We think he likes the bigger track better. So it's hard. You got to have the right horse for a half.
And then when you do that, any rigging changes, shortening up of hobbles?
Exactly.
Different
So
kind of boots?
Yep.
Don't know.
usually on a bigger track, they can stretch their legs a little more. So you can let their hobbles out and let them really fill their hobbles out. The turns are so tight on a half-mile track that you tend to take them up
Okay.
and give them less leg
Okay.
to get around there.
All right, very good. Greg Schuler asks, and gotta love this question, only from Greg from Notre Dame country. Coming back to the paddock after race, your husband being Ricky Macomber, one of our regular drivers here at Hoosier Park, and he's just driven for you here, and in maybe a race that you might think maybe not the best driving out there. Ever give him the evil eye?
Usually if I'm quiet, he
knows
knows.
he
So
knows he's
I
in
don't
trouble.
have to really give an evil eye. But when I'm waiting on him to say that he messed up
Okay.
or the horse wasn't
Smart man.
great or something,
Smart man.
yeah, so he'll usually admit to it before I can ask, what were you thinking?
Okay, so do you leave you leave your work at the office?
Absolutely.
Don't take it home.
No. And I learned that from my parents.
Okay.
So they were really, really good at that. So we tend to only talk horses just usually over lunch.
Okay.
So in the barn in the morning, and it goes to lunchtime, but once we're home, it's usually just being mommy and daddy.
Okay, speaking of your parents, they are now a big part of your life here in Indiana. Just the last few years, they've made the decision to buy property, invest in Indiana.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I have a 4- and 6-year-old, and they are awesome with my kids and help me so much.
And that's
So not
key,
only
yeah.
do I rely on good help, but I rely on my parents a lot
Right,
also.
right. Did they help you in the barn as well?
They have 2 horses of their own.
Right.
So if every now and again, if my dad's already got his helmet on and his jog cart's near, I'll ask him to jump on and go with one.
Okay.
So I have a couple babies. He loves babies.
That he does, and he's been very successful. As you remember, back in Ohio, our days at Scioto Downs, he had some very good trotters, Ohio champion trotters, sire stakes horses, and so successful. Then they disappeared for a while. I'm assuming they went out east to spend time with your sister.
My brother and my sister both moved out east, so
Okay.
they have 2 grandkids, one in New York and one in New Jersey. So they
Okay.
decided to move east, and
Then came back to God's country.
yeah, they missed the Midwest.
All right, very good. So Kim Mosier asks, what's the most challenging and what is the most rewarding part about being the trainer of our first turn stable, our fractional ownership group here at Hoosier Park? You've just taken over that task here within the last couple of years.
This is the easiest question.
This is the easiest
yeah.
question. Okay.
The most challenging part is finding them a horse.
Right, that you can keep for 2 weeks at a time.
Yes, and that's competitive. So our claiming horses are, they're just slim right now,
Right.
and
They are.
the shortage of horses everywhere is killing
Right.
me.
Not just here,
Yeah,
but elsewhere.
everywhere. So
Right.
it's hard to find them a horse. So that's the challenging part. And the most rewarding part is when we do win, bringing it back to the winner's circle to 35 people is the best part ever.
By all means. So you love to see happy people onto the winner's circle.
Yeah, that's my goal.
That is your goal.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Good question there. So T. Jackson asks, and this is a good question. What advice would you give to the young ladies out there who are thinking of a training career? Now, you're one of a handful of female trainers here at Hoosier Park. And something that we're slowly starting to see, I think, in industry-wide, starting to see more ladies with the training the training license and down as the trainer. But what advice would you give to those that are looking up to you? Because I know there's a lot of young ladies out there that are doing just that.
Yeah, do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. The one thing girls are, I would say, as a whole, are good at would be multitasking and working hard. So I just take my work ethic and I take my listening to everybody and I just put it to work and I try to outwork my competition. So that's what advice I would give them.
Son of a great boss, Jamie. Would love to work for you. And obviously, again, you were taught by one of the best with Ronnie Burt with that communication. And as you said earlier, that's a lot of the success, reason for the success that not only you have had, but he has had as well.
Yeah, and that's what he taught me too. The minute things start to get tough, just work harder. Put more hours in, put more handwork, and because you find yourself, the more horses you get, you're sitting behind horses, and then you're going home and sitting behind a computer.
Right.
And so you go back to the barn, and you're just like more hands-on, and you just work harder.
Okay, very good. How many horses back in the barn?
33.
33. My goodness, that is a long day. What time does your day start in the morning?
Well, we tried something new this year. We've always been try to be the first people on the track. It's hard to beat Roger Welsh.
Roger Welsh.
But we tried to always be, on the track at 6.
Okay.
So this year we moved it to 6:30. So we started out with plenty of help, which never happens. And so we moved it to 6:30. So we're on the track at 6:30, and we try to be out of there by noon. Give the horses, their resting time in the afternoon with nobody in the barn.
So you're a big believer in quiet time for the horses. Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Super. And let's go to the next one, Doug Bexler. And we talked about this with your help and whatnot. And he has asked how much you count on your help. And obviously you've made you have given your help a lot of credit here, and rightfully so. And but again, with 2 young ones, that also means obviously time away from home. So are there certain days that you say, okay, this is my day off, I'm going to spend with the kids? Weekends, I'm assuming, we're dark on Sundays and Mondays. Does that work into that schedule?
It's so funny that you said that because Nate is 6, and he adopted Sundays as family day immediately. Like as soon as he was old enough to realize our schedules, he knew, it's family day.
Right.
So he understands, Sundays that we try to do something as a family every Sunday. Good. And spend the whole day together, or the majority of the day.
Right.
And obviously with Ricky working most nights, we don't get dinner together.
Right.
So we try to make a big deal about Sunday dinner, make sure we all have a nice dinner on Sunday together.
Yeah, I hear that as well.
Yep.
Okay, so speaking of Roger Welsh, and have you ever, you wear I believe your parents' colors, right? With the blue and the gold, or the blue and the yellow with the white trim, or the red trim, I guess it is. And Ricky has his own colors.
Roger, your question is no. I told Ricky when we got married, I said, I'll either take your last name or your colors. So since we have 2 kids, I went ahead and went with the last name. So, and he ordered every jog cart in burgundy and gold. So
imagine that.
Now I just kind of mismatch out there. But you know what? Right. It's not a big deal.
That's all right. That's quite okay. So you've had some, as we said, you've had some very good horses in the Ron Burke barn, but also, since you branched out on your own, some very good horses as well. Who's the best horse you sat behind?
Oh, this is so not a fair question. So I've come up with, we can go back to all the way when I first started for Ronnie so many years ago with Maltese Artist and Buckeye St. Pat, and then it goes on to Go On BB, and then it goes on to Hannah Lore. And then I get Beckham and...
That's not a fair question.
No. And even Foiled Again.
Right.
So
sorry.
I can't pick.
Sorry, Larry Carr.
Yeah,
but
I'm sorry,
that is a tough
Larry.
question.
It's a tough question. And if you know me, I usually find something I love in every horse. So they might not be graded till the half, but they can come home good, and that's a good horse. I can't answer that.
How do you train your horses here at Hoosier? We have the longest stretch in harness racing. And so do you train your horses when they turn for home? That's the time to dig in and go. I mean, you like to see those fast last quarters, fast last eighths. Do you do interval training? Anything special that you do that might set you apart from someone else?
No, pretty much I've noticed that a lot of people train very similar. I push my horses from the 3/4 pull home, and I want them, going pretty good the last
through the,
8.
Yes,
Yeah,
through the line.
Yeah, through the wire and around the turn. And just depending on the horse, their attitude, their lameness or soreness and stuff like that, then we can adjust it. And once I find out that a horse maybe has become accustomed to that schedule, sometimes we'll gallop them.
Okay,
Which is
just lead behind another horse.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll take the hobbles off and let them work their
Right.
lungs a little bit more on a gallop and work muscles differently.
In the cart, though, not
Yep.
not necessarily. I see some trainers will tow another horse while they're jogging one horse. They're towing another
Yeah,
horse.
I've never done that.
Never done that.
I'm really not that strong.
Okay.
So I feel that if the horse is going to do something silly, I can't
Right.
take care of both
Understandable.
horses and myself.
Understandable. So that leads to the next question. Sometimes you see horses out here that are just loping along, and that's something we've from the old school, something we never used to
Never.
see years ago.
I
And
agree.
when I first started to see that, it's like, oh gosh, what's the betting public going to think about this? But I agree. I think it's a great strategy. Obviously, the horse is going to be using different muscles, probably more relaxing for the horse as well.
I think it is. I agree with you 100%. Just it's something different.
Yes.
And it works so many different muscle groups, and it works their lungs and their heart so differently. And those are things that you learn as you go.
Sure. Do you have access to a pool for horses?
I wish.
Is there anything locally available?
There used to be one not far from here, and
Okay.
I don't even know if it's still up and going. So this is where it becomes rough in this area is, those
The lack of those facilities.
alternative options. Mhm.
Wow. Okay, so let's see. What else do we have here? What's your favorite part about being a trainer, and especially being on your own?
Oh, my favorite? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool for my kids to see things and know that before, like I said before, it was always daddy's horse and daddy's racing. Everything was daddy. So Aubrey's 4, and so she comes in and she'll say mommy's barn or something like that. So that's been fun. And Nate will say, can we go do this today? And I'll be like, but I have to work. Well, you're the boss. So Nate thinks that I can just do whatever I want, but
Yeah.
yeah, right. So I would say the best part about it is that I'm hoping I'm teaching my kids leadership. I hope I'm teaching my kids all the right things in
Right.
life to succeed.
Right, including hard work.
Yeah.
So I know Nate. I understand he's a little baseball player.
Yes, that's so fun. It's so new. So we're having a lot of fun with it. I got to learn to take the pressure off of winning and all of that good stuff with him and tell him just to have fun. So he told me the other day that Coach Pitch is all about having fun, but when he plays professional baseball, then it's about winning.
Ah, okay, very good. Well, has his goals
He's 6.
set. Okay, he's 6. Speaking of goals, any goals for you in the next 5 years?
Yeah. I think we need to be a little more aggressive in changing our horses in the barn. Right now, I'm pretty easygoing on what comes in the barn, and I try to make the best out of the horses I've got.
Okay.
But I do watch Ronnie and I watch Jeff, and they're always constantly getting new horses, and their owners are aggressive, whether they're behind it or not. They always have new horses. Every week on the sheet, there's a new horse that I didn't see the week before or something. So I would say, within the next year, but especially the next 5 years, I would like to be more aggressive in more different horses coming in the barn.
Sure, culling out the bottom end,
Yeah.
bringing the whole thing up.
Yeah. And I noticed, I know a lot of people are like, but not everybody can do that.
Right.
But I want to find a way for me to do it.
Okay, all right. And obviously with stables like the Cullifer Barn and the Burke Barn, they have some very powerful owners behind them, and that are willing to be the aggressive owners. And so obviously you just have to find that right partner to do that.
Yeah, or talk to my partners and talk to my owners and see if that's something that they'd be interested in doing
Right.
also.
Right.
But right now, it's just learning everybody, and
Sure.
having great communication has been one of my most learned aspects of going on my own.
Sure. So then, with your 33 horses back at the barn right now, young stake horses, older horses? Is it a good mix?
Yeah, I do. I'm low on 3-year-olds,
Okay.
but I've got 6 babies right now.
Okay.
So, and they're all doing everything they're supposed to be doing or everything that I ask them to do. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I'm learning. I'm like, people just say that, but I'm learning.
Yeah.
They're doing what I
Right,
ask. So until I put them with 9 other horses on the racetrack,
Right.
we'll find out what they are.
So then, in your goal of having that high powered stable, what would that stable look like then? Would it be mostly babies, mostly older horses, or a good mix?
I love racehorses. I love the claimers. I love
Really?
a classy racehorse. So when I look at claimers and stuff like that, that's what I look for. It's just back class and
Okay.
whatnot. I would tell you that I don't love 2-year-olds, but I find myself very excited every week when it's time to train them.
As we all do. We look forward to seeing them on the track.
Yeah, so I'm getting there with the babies.
Okay.
Ronnie says I'm good with them, but
And I'm sure you are. And you are.
I don't know.
You have a young filly, rookie filly that we just saw race, I believe last night out here, by the name of Haley Ivy. The filly caught my eye. I think she has some potential.
I just can't get her to put 4 quarters together.
Really? Okay.
She's so shaky the first half.
Still green. She's
Yeah.
very green.
So I worked so hard on her all winter trying to get her shoeing and vet work and whatnot. And Ronnie was in Florida and he trained her one trip.
Okay.
And he's like, don't make any changes. You've almost got her. So that took a ton of pressure off because, you're just going and going and she's still making breaks. And you're like,
Right.
Haley, I don't know what else to try. So one day I said, you know what, it's inevitable. She's going to wear trotting hobbles because this is so anxious watching her, waiting for her to run
Right.
every week. So I put the hobbles on her and knock on wood.
That's been the key.
It helps
Okay.
a lot.
Okay.
So it gives her that confidence. So now Ricky has given me another challenge with her to try and figure out something else with these hobbles. So I'm trying to rig something up to make him happy.
So when he comes back to the barn after driving a horse, does he have suggestions? Hey, let's re-rig, let's do this?
One of my favorite parts about Ricky, and it always has been the entire time I've been in the horse business, because he drove for my dad
Sure.
a little bit before we became husband and wife, and he always comes back with constructive criticism.
And some trainers don't do well with that, though.
Yeah, but we're a team.
Okay.
And as long as him and I know that, then there's always going to be open communication.
But it should always be a team, whether you're husband or wife or whether you're just the driver and the trainer. You should be able to take that constructive criticism and hopefully
And some guys just don't have it when they come back. You know what I
Right.
mean? They're just not talkative drivers or
Sure.
or whatnot. So anything that they can tell us helps.
Okay.
It's just how we take it as a trainer. Do we want to scope?
Exactly.
Do we want to scope them? Do we want to pull blood? What did they tell us out there? Do we need to change their rigging? Ricky will come in and say, hey, can you give it some thought? Can we try a pull down bridle on this one?
Right.
Or this one is just going through the motions. You need to change his schedule somehow to pepping him up. And John DeLong came back with that same suggestion last week when he drove one of our entries.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So what would you like? Well, first let's get the Instagram question out of the way here. You think your horses are racing better this year versus maybe last year?
No, I don't. I think right now we're going through some, like we talked about earlier, they're the same horses. A lot of my race horses are the same horses I had last year. So, and whether they're sore or tired or used to my training. So this week we changed it up a little bit. I'm really anxious to race this weekend and see how they respond to our training schedule this week.
Sure. Do they get the wintertime off, the horses?
Most of them. I love breaks.
Okay.
So, I have some horses that I've tried to give, that I've had for years, that I've tried to give them breaks and they just don't come back. So I got to race
Right.
them.
Keep
And
them going.
Finally, when I do give them a break, finally one start, they're like, oh,
Yeah.
you're back. Nice to see you. But, yeah, I would like to get, 30, 35 starts in them, give them 4 to 6 weeks in the field, let them be horses, eat grass. We call grass Dr. Green.
You're right.
So it really freshens up their mind and their
Sure
soul.
does. Happy horse.
Yeah.
Happy horse. So then in the wintertime when we are dark here, I'm assuming you're at pace setter perhaps?
Well, I don't know where I'm going. So we usually go to Pompano.
Okay.
So this year we brought all of our gates, brought all of our rubber mats. So it's official.
That's a sign. That's a sign.
It's scary. But Ricky braving the cold is really scary for
That's
me.
not that bad.
But,
it's not that bad. Although it was cold this last winter.
So I don't know where we're going.
Okay, good deal. So one thing, if there's one thing that you could change in harness racing, and I should have told you this before off air, but to give you some time to think off the top of your head, one thing that you would like to see done differently.
You know, it's such a tough question, and I went to school for marketing, got my degree in marketing, and that was my goal, was to come back and give back to this awesome industry that gave me so much as a kid and put me through school and all of that. And I haven't came up with the answer, but
Well, keep thinking about it.
I guess as a trainer, you know, universal rules would be awesome across the country. But as a fan, and to get more people in the seats, you know, you guys are top notch. So you guys will probably figure it out first.
Well, thank you
Here at
very
Hoosier
much.
Park.
All right, well, Jamie, we are down to 6 minutes already. We started early because I knew this would take some time. Yes, and as we promised last night, we promised this would be a good interview. We've known Jamie for a long time, and she fits the bill up here. You do not only an outstanding job back of the barn, but on the air as well. You're very comfortable, and I see a future.
I'm a talker.
You get that from your father, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anything else?
No, thank you so much for having me. And like I said, I'm so glad that we chose to make Hoosier Park our home. And,
Well, it's good to have you here.
And we love it here. And all that good.
All right. Well, we certainly look forward to seeing you here next year and years down the road here as this industry in Indiana continues to get stronger. And
I do have two things real quick.
yes,
Today's my mother-in-law's birthday, so happy birthday, Grandma.
she's watching from Florida, I'm
Yes,
assuming?
she's watching from
Okay.
Florida. I'm sure she better be.
Okay.
And Ronnie said he sent in a question and wanted to know if he was the best trainer ever.
I don't
So,
see that on
They
here
didn't
anywhere.
pick it, so I better answer it.
Okay. Is Ron Burke the best trainer ever?
You know, I do call him super trainer, so I'm afraid so.
His operation is unbelievable. I don't know, and I've never worked with the guy, so I don't know how he does
You're
this.
not supposed to follow up with this because this is what he wanted. He wanted you to
Unbelievable.
say how
Okay.
awesome he is.
Sorry. All right. Well, as you can see behind us here, the horses are being hooked for the first of the evening. If you've just arrived, welcome to Harrah's Hoosier. No changes in the first, but we do have a scratch in the second race, second half of the double. The one, She's a Kitten. Filly from your mare from your barn, she has been scratched, so we're down to a field of 5. Anything else you've got going tonight? How many got in tonight?
One in the last, I think.
One in the last.
Legal Spike. So my old horse that I have now made him my pet.
Ah, very good. Do pets race well?
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
All right.
They know how much we love them.
All right. Well, for Jamie Macomber and everyone else here at Hoosier, thanks again for joining us. We certainly hope you enjoy your night here at Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. Thanks again, Jamie.